September is Child Cancer Month, and an organization called Rainbows and Smiles has dedicated itself over the past 7 years to providing the care and support that families dealing with child cancer may need. The founder of Rainbow and Smiles is Bonita Suckling, who joins us on the show to talk about the work that the organization has been doing and how they got started, and of course to mobilize us as the public to provide additional support to organizations such as hers, including the families who might be having a member, a child specifically, who might be dealing with cancer. Bonita Suckling, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for having me here.
We appreciate. And
Thank
you know,
you.
I'm always inspired and I'm always pleased when I see individual citizens take it upon themselves, run to promote a particular cause, raise resources, funding, and mobilize us as a people behind that particular cause. Because if it were not for people like yourselves, we would probably not pay attention to issues such as child cancer. So let me start with that compliment.
Thank you very much, Tim.
And we
Thank
invite you because we want that inspiration. Secondly, because we also want to give you additional support.
Thank you so much. And thank you for wearing the gold ribbon. It means so much to me. Thank you.
No, thank you too for coming on the show. Rainbows and Smiles is a very personal story to you, and a sad and tragic one, but you found a constructive way of dealing with that.
Yes, Tim, it wasn't always constructive. My son was diagnosed with a very rare form of brain cancer. My only child was diagnosed with an anaplastic astrocytoma, which is brain cancer in the cerebellum. Very rare. He was just before his 4th birthday. We went through treatments, almost 3 years of treatments, and very sadly and tragically, my little boy passed away.
Very sad. I can imagine, I mean, a child who's still becoming aware, you know, trying to know who he is and so on, and because children play, enjoying himself, but yet having to deal with the burden of such a complex problem, such a complex disease as cancer. So you went through all the pain, the grief.
Yeah, I did, Tim, and like I said to you, it wasn't always the journey that it appears to be now. I went through a very, very dark period after my son passed away. I separated from my boyfriend. It was really a difficult time for me, and 4 months after his death, I tried to take my own life. And I speak openly about this because it's a very real issue. As a grieving parent, there is no greater loss than losing your child, I believe. And while I was in ICU for a week and then in a general ward for 2 weeks. And while I was lying there, I thought to myself, how can I turn this into something positive? Just before my little boy passed away, we were lying on the bed, and at that stage, he was paralyzed, battling to swallow, really taking strain. The cancer had already started to move and take away all of his functionality.
There was a lot of suffering that went with it, yeah.
And at the end, he looked at me, and it was a couple of days before he passed, and he said to me, "Mommy, let's make today the funnest day ever." And I remember lying in hospital and those words echoing in my mind. How can a little boy that was losing his life be so positive and have so much going for him? And here I was thinking about ending it all when he tried so hard to live.
And you know, here you are reflecting on your own experience and sharing with us your own personal tragedy and suffering, because you know the grief that went with it, the attempt to take your life, is something that is experienced by a lot of families elsewhere, and who may not have the tools, the means to get over it or to deal with it.
Yes.
Right? And I suppose that's what motivated you to start Rainbows and Smiles.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
What kind of cases do you come across in your line of work? I mean, you know, because sometimes if you don't have first-hand experience of something, you may think it does not exist at all.
Tim, can I shock you? So in South Africa, 1,000 children are diagnosed with cancer each year. 2,000 children, additional, are not diagnosed at all. That means
who have cancer but have not been diagnosed.
Not being correctly diagnosed.
Yes.
That means 2/3 of our children are not being diagnosed.
Yes.
They don't even have a chance to fight.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to fight for survival. So something that I'm so passionate about is not only creating advocacy, but it's taking that advocacy and awareness and educating people on what the early warning signs are. Early diagnosis can change the survival outcome, the prognosis.
Just tell me about the early diagnosis, because people may not know the symptoms and may not understand what we're talking about when you talk about child cancer in broad terms, but stuff that we can easily identify or understand.
Tim, I'll definitely send you a list of the warning signs, but in brief, I always say to a mother who says to me, how did you know? That thing that we know when our husband is having an affair or cheating, it's called gut. Your mother gut will tell you something is not right. If you see behavioral changes in your child, if you start noticing your child is lethargic, rashes, all things that is not sitting comfortable for you as a mother, have it investigated. And again until you've got answers. So, to go through all of the warning signs, which I will email through to you, and you can perhaps put up on social media.
I suppose the point that we should make, at least because we've got access to the tools now, the internet, the phone, smartphones, that we can also check on the internet. But
absolutely,
if you feel that there's something not right with your child, please investigate further. That's
follow
the basic.
Your gut.
Sure.
Follow your gut.
Now, you started Rainbows and Smiles, and you've been running the organization, or it's been in existence for 7 years, right? What have you been able to do over that period of time?
I'm very proud of our achievements. We've done play area revamps. We've provided scales for the hospitals where the children are accurately weighed for chemotherapy treatments. We've done so many awareness talks, advocacy. We provide grocery vouchers. We've paid medical bills. The list is endless. But I'm really proud of what we've achieved as a team. We don't get any corporate funding, so we rely on donations from individuals, and we've really been able to use it and make a substantial difference.
And how have you been mobilizing the public and those who may want to support you? How do they go about it?
Well, the first thing you can do is book me to come and talk at your organization. And thank you so much for having me here today.
Sure.
This is really how you can make a difference. Having me come through and do an awareness talk at your organization, and also share my personal journey. My journey is, I believe, quite inspirational. I went from somebody who tried to take her own life, collapsed lung, kidney problems, to somebody who first did a 5K loop around the block. And then this year, I did a marathon, climbed Kilimanjaro. Then I did full Ironman, and I completed it with a comrades finish. So it's an inspirational story that I can come through and share. So by inviting me to come and do a talk, host a party with a purpose, perhaps you've got a particular talent. You can bake cakes and you can host a cake sale, auction of artwork, whatever it is you think that you could do to help us to raise funds. We have another division called Rainbow's Closet, where we resell secondhand clothing, and that helps us pay for the administration of running the NGO.
I want to go back to your personal story just briefly, because sometimes people go through difficulties, pain, and the kind of experience you've had. But we benefit more if we could understand how you picked yourself up, because to spend time in ICU and those wards and going through dark, depressed time can be something that destroys you totally, and you never recover, never come out of that. Now you've climbed Kilimanjaro, finished the Comrades Marathon, the triathlons, and the whole, life is alive,
Absolutely.
so to speak. So how did you just get out of there and get to where you are now?
I didn't just get up and get out of there.
Yeah.
I actually continuously heard my son's voice echoing in my head over and over again. That, mommy, let's make today the funnest day ever. Let's make today count. Let's make a difference. He only had a few days left to live. We're all destined to die, Tim. And if you make the most of every moment of the short time that we're given, I think that is the message in my personal journey that I'd like to portray, is that I turned from lying there, contemplating suicide and death all the time after losing him. I felt like I'd lost part of my soul, part of my life, my everything, and just using sports and health and nutrition to try and turn it around and create awareness. Obviously, I do these crazy events so that I can feel close to my son. The harder I push myself, the closer I feel to Jed, but also to raise awareness. So we have teams that do the 94.7 cycle, mid-mar, comrades.
At least more and more
people can join us. People can join us.
Yeah.
We have teams, and we go out and we raise awareness and funds, and we have fun. So we raise awareness and funds by doing these sporting events.
Because even if you don't have the experiences that you've had, somewhere somebody is going through a difficult time and may think that theirs is a heavier burden to carry, whereas it might be not as terrible and tragic as what you've been through. And I read somewhere, somebody wrote, recently actually, that life is a near-death experience.
Absolutely.
So you must respect it all the time because, it might end.
Absolutely.
And you would not have lived. So as you live it, be aware that it may end. It's a near-death experience. I found that to be very profound.
And live it with your heart and soul.
Sure. But now, we want our viewers to support you, to participate. Where do they go? What can they do? How do they get in touch with you?
They can actually contact me personally. They can go to our website, www.rainbowsandsmiles.org.za. They can use my cell phone, which is 083 460 0999. Follow us on Facebook, Rainbows and Smiles. They can follow us on Twitter as well. It's Arbows NPO on Twitter. So yeah, just get involved, follow us, see what we're doing, and yeah, help us make a difference.
Well, Bonita, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I leave our viewers with just one message?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Today, if you weren't aware, you are now. Help us to move awareness into action. Help us to change the numbers for the better. Help us so that you never have to sit and say, when my child had cancer.
Bonita, thanks again.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, we can help make a difference by supporting families who are affected by cancer, particularly children who are living with cancer. And you can imagine from a child's point of view, the suffering that they go through and not being able to make sense. Let's increase the awareness. Bonita, once again, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for wearing the gold ribbon for my son.
Thank you.